Okay, welcome back. I've made a couple of changes to my application. I changed the current time label, made it just a bit bigger and bolder, and I changed the color. And as you can see here, I've added some patients to my patient database, but I've left the tutorial example up here so that you can see that when you create a new node, it basically just puts that node underneath your Firebase. So your Firebase can have several different nodes, and then each node can have information depending on how you insert that object into the node. This is basically a NoSQL database. So each node is a database with values. That's not really important for this part. What I'm going to do now is write the retrieve operations. I previously wrote the create operations of a CRUD app. Now I'm going to write the retrieve operations by getting information from this database into a dictionary and then using the values of that dictionary to populate a list and then display the contents of that list into a data grid view. So I'm going to go over here to my Solution Explorer and I'm going to click here and add a form. I'm going to add a Windows form. I'm going to call this patient list form. .cs. And then I'm also going to add a edit patient form. .cs. Add Windows form, edit patient form. You know what? Actually, we don't need to do that. So I'm going to cancel, and I'll tell you I'm canceling later. But I'm going to focus on this patient list form for now. So first I'm going to go to properties and remove the form border style. Form border style equals none. And I'm going to go back here to my main form and copy this the dimensions. Go back to my add patient form or patient list form and make these dimensions equal. There we go. What I'm going to do here is put a panel up here and then a panel to the left and then a panel to the right. There you go. So I'm going to dock this panel at the top. And inside this panel, I'm going to put a button. And I'm going to dock this button to the left. And I'm going to decrease the size of this panel here. Now what I need are 5 different buttons. I need a button to sort patients by room number, sort patients by ID, and sort patients by last name, as well as a button to edit patient information and delete patients from the database. So I'm going to click here, copy, and then paste it. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to change the values. We're going to call this sort by room. We're going to call this sort by ID. And we're going to call this sort by last name, or just sort by last. We're going to call this edit. And this is going to be delete. I'm going to change the values of these buttons. So this is going to be the delete button. This is the edit button. This is the sort by last button, or just call it sort last button. This is the sort ID button. And this is the sort room button. Okay, now I'm going to select these. First, I'm going to select this, and I'm going to change it so that it's just enough to see the values. That's good. Select all of them, and I'm going to change the sizing down here. And I'm going to change this slowly so that it can fit this entire form evenly. So let's try 90. Okay, I'm going to try 115. Looks like I'm getting closer. How about 120? Okay, 135. That's a bit much. Let's try 130. Okay, so 127. Let's go 126. Good. All right. Now I'm going to add a data table to the left and a text box to the right. So let's say data grid view. And I'm going to dock this to the left. And I'm going to add a text box. Let's add a rich text box, that's fine. Rich text box? Sure, why not? And I'm going to dock this to the right. And I'm going to add just 3 columns because this is going to be a preview of the patient information. So we really just need room number, ID, and last name. So I'm going to click up here at this icon, click Edit Columns, add room number. Room number is not a valid identifier. I don't know what's going on. Okay. Okay, column 1, let's change this down here. Change the header text to room number, add patient ID, and then add last name. Okay, close, click OK. So I'm gonna have to go in and change the width, edit columns. Let's go down here. Let's make this, I don't know, 75. Sorry. Let's change this to 75 and change this to 75. Just a bit better. Okay. Let's well, I can increase this a bit. So that's fine. Let me just run this. That's fine. I'm going to change this width to 310. Change that to 305. Good. In order to load this form, I'm going to go to Solution Explorer, Main Form, double click the Add Patient menu strip item, and then open Form, Add Patient Form. Oh, I'm sorry. This is a patient list. So double click Patient List, and then open Form, Patient List Form. Now, when I start the application, if I click Patient List Form, the patient list that we just created should be right here. And there it is, and everything looks like it fits properly. So it looks pretty good. So I'm going to go back in and change the width of these data grid values. So let's just exit. Go to Solution Explorer, double click Patient List Form, click here, and then go to Edit Columns. I'll change that back to 100. How about this? Change this to room number, change that to 75, change this to 100, change this to 100, click OK. Good. So build, and then start just to check it. Patient list, everything fits proper, good. Let's see. So let's go to the code behind file, and like we did in the other files, I'm going to add the Firebase config. I'm going to add my using statements, and then I'm going to go to my main form and then copy the Firebase config in a client code. Let's go patient list form design, view code. And then as I did over here, I'm going to initialize my client. And this way we'll be connected. So what I'm going to do now is underneath the client, I'm going to declare a dictionary and a list. So dictionary of type string and patient class. We're going to call this patient dictionary. Patient dictionary. And then I'm going to create a list of type patient class called patient list. And then on my form load, I want to take all the patients in this database and populate the data grid view with those patients. So what I'm going to do is double click my patient list class form, go straight to properties. This way you'll be, oh, we're on the form. Here, I'm gonna exit out of this so that when I double click it in the Solution Explorer, the first control that's going to be selected is the entire form. So go to properties, the form is selected, and I'm going to go to events and double click patient load. And I'm going to write a method called export to data grid. Or just export patients or load patients. I'm going to call this load patients. And right here, I'm going to create the load patients method. This is going to be a private async method because it has to be async because it's using the FireSharp framework, meaning that inside the method, we're going to have to use that await statement like we did earlier. So private async load patients takes in no parameters. It's a void method. So private async void load patients. There we go. And first thing I'm going to do is clear the patient list. Right now the patient list is empty, but because I'm going to edit patients and load and edit patient form, when I close that form, I want the information to be updated automatically. So in order to do that, you have to clear the patients that are currently in the data grid view, or rather currently in the list, so that when you draw in the patients from the database and populate the data grid view with those patients, it'll be the fresh updated list. So I'm going to write patient list.clear, patient list.clear, and then I'm going to insert a try catch block. Here I'm just going to put message box.show error occurred. here, we're going to, I'm going to go back to my design, and I'm going to make sure that all these are named. Uh-oh. There we go. All right. So all these buttons are named, but this isn't named. So I'm going to call this main display rich text box. Main display rich text box. And I'm going to call this main data grid view. Main data grid view. Go back to the code. And here in the try catch block, I'm going to write main data grid view.rows.clear so that every time you load this form, it automatically clears any information that's in that data grid view. Main data grid view.rows.clear. And then I'm going to declare a response object. So var response equals await the client object that we declared earlier, client.getAsync, and then I'm going to call, the parameter I'm going to input is this patient database string right here. So I'm just going to copy this. So this is going to get everything from the Firebase. And then I'm going to take the dictionary that I declared earlier, patient dictionary. Seriously? Okay, I'm just going to copy this. Patient dictionary equals the response object dot result as a dictionary of type string and of type patient class. So response dot result as dictionary of type string and patient class. So it's going to be, so the dictionary has a key value pair. This is the key and this is the value. So the key is of type string and the value is an object of the patient class. And outside here, I'm just going to put my parentheses. So clear the data grid view, declare a response object getting all the information from the patient database, and then store that response into the patient dictionary as a dictionary of type string and patient object. Then I'm going to write if the patient dictionary doesn't equal null. Oh, I see. I wrote that incorrectly, so I'm gonna rename it. Patient dictionary. Good. So if patient dictionary doesn't equal null, then we're gonna declare another variable. I'm gonna call this sort by room, because if you see here, the data grid view has room, ID, and last name. So I'm gonna sort by room. I'm gonna use link here, so var sort by room. Let's just call it sort room equals from X in patient dictionary, order by X dot value, which is the patient object, dot room number, ascending, because I wanted to sort from the from 500 to 520. So I'm going to sort it ascending. Ascending, select X. So this is getting a key value pair, I believe. Yeah, this is getting a key value pair, and then for each item in this dictionary, no, this is returning a list. Hold on a second. For each item in this object, add it to the patient list. Okay, right. So this is getting a value, right? So what we're getting here, I believe, is a dictionary. And then right underneath, you're going to write for each var item in sort room. For each var item in sort room, you're going to add the item dot value, right? So this is a dictionary. We're creating a new dictionary using link by accessing this dictionary and then ordering them by room number ascending. So then for each item in this dictionary, we're going to take the item dot value, which is the patient object, and then add it to the patient list that was declared up here, right? So patient list dot add patient list dot add item dot value, and then main data grid view dot rows dot add we're going to add the room number and then the ID and then the last name. So it's going to be item dot value dot room number, and then we're going to add item dot value dot ID and then last name. So I'm going to paste that. I'm going to change this to ID. I'm going to change this to last name. Okay, and then else, that's in the if block, and I'm going to just, if there's nothing there, I'm just going to show a message box saying that the database is empty. So else message box, I'm going to copy this. Message box, database is empty. Good. I'm going to build this. So no errors. And let's see. Let's just see if this works. So when we, just to go over, we're connecting to the Firebase, and then when we click the add or the patient list button at the menu strip, it should load this form and then populate this data grid view with all of the items in this patient database by ID, room number, and last name. It's going to sort them by ID. So let's start. Click patient list, and there we go. 501C, 515, and then everything in between, and it's automatically sorted by room number. These are the patient IDs, and these are the last names. So I'm going to go back now that that's working. I'm going to click the properties here and go down to, if I'm going to run this again just to show something. Data grid views can sort automatically. If you click this and you click this, it automatically sorts the patients. The problem is when I tried to double click the patient to display the information here, I didn't find a way to revamp clear the list properly. So I had to create my own buttons up here to manually sort all the patient information. So in order to disable this automatic sort function that comes with the data grid view, we have to go to the properties, and I believe it's here, sortable. It should be somewhere. It's somewhere. Standard size, tab stop. That property is here somewhere, and I'm going to find that later. I'm not going to worry about it right now. But that's definitely something I need to fix. But now the patients are being loaded. What we want to do is go here and double click each of these buttons. so that we can implement the functionality. So first thing I'm going to do is create a sort by function. I'm going to go right below here, private sort by. It's going to take in a string as a parameter, sort by value, string value, that's fine. Private void sort by, and I'm going to write a switch statement. So switch on the value of the value string, and I'm going to write case, let's say room. Then the patient list is going to be sorted based on this. We're going to store a new value into the patient list using link. So the patient list is going to be equal to the patient list that's currently the list of values that's currently in the patient list when the form loads. But you're going to order by patient list.order by x, where x equals x.room number. And then we're going to convert this to a list. And then right below, you're going to write break. So I'm going to copy this here. And I'm going to change this to ID. And change this to last, let's just call it last. And we're going to do where x is room number, where x is x.id, and x.last name. So this should work in order to sort the list of patients in the data grid. And then right below here, I want to write, I want to clear the rows of patient objects that are currently in the data grid. So main data grid .rows.clear. And then we're going to write for each. For each var item in the patient list. I'm going to add the patients to the data grid. So it's going to be the same code up here, I believe. Yeah, so I'm just going to do this. I think this should work. So it's going to be item.room. This is a list of objects in this patient list, as opposed to here, it's a list of dictionary items. So here, instead of item.value, it's just going to be item.room number, item.id, item.last name, right? Depending on how we sorted it with this switch statement above here. So that should work. I'm going to save and build and then run it just to test it. So click patient list. Automatically sorts by room number, but if I sort by ID, we should see the items in the data grid change. So this is 2, 2, 2, 9, 2. So it'll probably, this one won't change at all, but you'll see that this 9 and this 9 should be at the bottom of the list. So sort by ID, and it's not working. Oh, I didn't implement them. Okay, that's all right. Okay, so here we have to call this sort by function. So sort by. So whenever you double click the sort by room button, sort by room, and then here it's going to be sort by ID, and here it's going to be sort by last name. So let's put last. Well, let's put ID. and then save. Should be working. Click patient list. It's automatically sorted by room, but if you click here, it changes it, and now the 9s are down here. And let's see, we got S, J, L, J, and M. So this J should be at the top if we sort by last name, and Watanabe should be at the bottom. So Jack is at the top, Watanabe is at the bottom. Just to test this, I'm gonna add a room number. That's gonna be, I'm gonna add a new patient. First name is gonna be Zeke. Last name is Z last name. Physician is somebody. Code status is full code. I'll delete this later. Date of birth is any age really. Wow, he's old. 219. In a proper application, you want to do a little error checking to make sure they can't pick a patient that's older than say 120 years old. But that's just a sample. So we're gonna say he's a male. Address is 567 Lane Drive. I'm populating this phone number box because it's just easier. Because I'm only gonna put 555 over and over again. Let's say he's married. Ethnicity is Jewish. Religion is Jewish. Jewish. Now room number. Now he's Zeke. We're gonna sort by room number. So if I put say 501, he's gonna be at the top of the list. If I put 550, he's gonna be at the bottom of the list. So I'm gonna put him right in the middle. Let's call him 506B, or let's call him 507B. Let's call it broken foot. When you click save, you're gonna see it populate here in the database. There you go. There he is. So now you go to the patient list, and Zeke last name right there. He's in 507. He's right in the middle. Whenever we sort by ID, he's gonna move. There you go. So Z now he's up here because he's 2333. We sort by last name, he should be at the bottom because the last name is Zeke. And there you go. So the sort function's working. I'm gonna stop the application for now. And then now we got to do with the edit button and the delete button. Okay. Now with the edit button, what I'm going to do is load the patient add form, but I'm going to load it with values populated from this list. So what I'm going to do here is use an open file dialog box. If you'll just give me a second so I can remember how to do this. I'm going to want to initialize a patient object or instantiate one. So patient class. Let's call him OBJ equals new patient class. And then the object that we're loading, or we're going to take this object we just declared and then store the values of the object of the current row that's selected. So OBJ should now equal the patient list at the main data grid view dot current cell dot row index. Current cell dot row index. That current cell.row index returns a integer value, and we are getting the patient object from the patient list with that integer value and is storing that object, the object property values into this object. So I'm just going to test this, and I'm going to say messagebox.show, and we're going to show the current object that's selected. We're going to show the room number and the ID. So how about room number and last name? So let's say obj.room number and then obj.last name. All right, just to go over this one more time. Uh-oh, problem. obj.last name. What's going on? Message. Oh, I'm see. sorry, string.format, string.format. There we go. Okay, so when I click this edit button, it's going to create a patient object, store the values of the current cell that's selected into that patient object, and we're going to show the room number and the last name. And hopefully this will still work even after we sort, even after we click the sort buttons. So I'm going to run this to test it. So patient list. So here we have Spike Spiegel. So double click him. Okay. We have edit. Oh, I see. Okay. Right. So let's go. Let's run it again. So I'm clicking. I'm selected Spike Spiegel here. All right. And this can select multiple people. So I'm gonna go in and fix that. Designer, go here. Multiple select should equal false. Multi-select right here equals false. And then save it. Build. Start. Patient list. So now we can't select multiple people. That's not good. Yeah, this is better this way. So I'm going to select this guy. When I click edit, it should show me 501c and Spiegel. 501c Spiegel. Good. So I'm going to click this guy. It should show 513 and Mine. 513 Mine. Now when we sort by last name, everything in the list is now sorted based on the last name. I had a problem previously with the list not clearing out and double clicking an item in the list and then showing the wrong patient value, but I think it should work. So now we selected 507Z last name. It should be 507Z last name. This should be 510 Lupon. And if you sort by ID, change the list again. But now if we click here, it should be 506 Martinez. 506 Martinez. Good. Now we don't need this message box, so I'm going to comment that out. I try not to delete things when I'm testing. I just comment them out, and then when things are ready to go into production, that's when you remove your debugging statements. I know we're supposed to be using fancy debugging tools, but I like good old-fashioned print statements. So what I'm going to do now is use a using statement. So using, I'm going to do the add patient form. FRM equals new add patient form, and then I'm going to go down here and say if frm.showDialog equals dialog result.ok, and that should show the form. So frm.show, seriously, frm.showDialog equals dialog result.ok. Now here you don't really have to do anything. This is just to make sure that the form pops up as a modal dialog form. And then after we edit the patient, I'm gonna go into the edit form. But after you exit that form, this using statement will automatically dispose of it. I want to call this load patient form or load patients method. So it clears out the list and then loads the patient from the database using the updated values. So let's test this just to make sure that the form pops up. So you add this, you click your patient, and then you click edit, and it should load a modal dialog form of the add patient form. And there it is right here. But that doesn't look too good. So I'm gonna go in and make sure that this loads on the center of the screen. So I'm gonna go Solution Explorer, add patient form. We're gonna go to Properties and Start Position. Let's exit this. and then go to Solution Explorer, Properties, those are the forms. So we're going to start position. Start position should be Windows Center. There we go. So we're going to rebuild. Patient list, click a patient, and then click edit, and it loads up this form. Good. I'm gonna see if I can change the border style when it loads the mobile form. So I'm gonna go to patient list here, frm.dialog result equals okay. Let's see if we can do frm. So let's say add patient form, add patient form, add patient form. Let's go apf.form border style equals apf.form border style equals form border style dot, let's say fixed 3D or fixed dialog. Let's call it, no, let's go fixed tool window. And hopefully that will give us a border around the modal form, so it looks just a little bit more distinct. So save, build. Nope, guess not. You know what? How about we do this? How about I go over here and I create a brand new edit patient form. So we have an add patient form. I'm going to click here, go to add Windows form, edit patient form, edit patient form .cs, and I'm going to change the properties of this form border style to fixed tool window, and I'm going to take all the components in this form, add patient form, and I'm going to copy them and then add them to the edit patient form. Good. So I'm going to size this. This is going to be a modal form, so it doesn't need to be equal to the other forms because it won't be loading on that main panel. So I'm just going to bring this up here. All right. And I'm going to go back here, patient list form, and I'm going to delete this code. And then when we click the edit button, what I'm going to do right here, when I instantiate this, when I open the form, is write patient info is equal to the object that we previously declared. So patient info equals obj. It's going to be throwing an error right now because this form doesn't have a variable of patient object. So we're going to go to the edit patient form, go to the code behind, and I'm going to create a variable of patient info. So I'm going to say public patient class equals patient info. Patient class patient info, and then get set. This is an auto implemented property of this little class. So if we go back here, it should no longer be throwing an error. Oh, hold on a second. Let's go to edit. Patient class, patient info. So we're going to say patient info equals the object. And that is throwing an error. Does not exist. Should be public. Public. Patient class, patient info. Isn't the patient class public? It's public. Something's going wrong. Just give me a second. We're gonna. So it looks like you've got. Oh, I see. Syntax error. Is that working? Patient info equals object. And then if, export to data grid, add patient form. Oh, I see. That's right. So we're no longer loading the patient form. Now we're loading the edit patient form. Edit patient form equals new edit patient form. We're going to call this edit patient form. Good. Now the error is gone. Edit patient form. Right. So we're going to use the using statement to load a new edit patient form. And then we're going to instantiate the patient info object on that form equal to this patient info object. And then we're going to make sure that the show dialog equals result.ok so that we can see the form. And then after you exit the form, it'll automatically repopulate the patients based on what's currently in the real-time database. So this should work. Let's just test it. So go to patient list. Click any one of these, then click add edit or edit. Good, and it's working. Good. So this is like the add form, but we're going to use this to edit the patient information. So create, retrieve, and now we're going to update the information. So click that, and it automatically reloads. If I sort by last name and I click edit, once you exit the edit or the edit screen, it should automatically reload what's based on the patient list. Reload using the room number. So exit. And it reloads and sorts by room number. So now we're going to go to the patient or the edit patient form. I'm going to change this color just to differentiate from the add patient. Properties, we're going to change this to black, maybe. That looks terrible. Looks terrible. I'm not a front-end designer by any means. I have a lot of respect for front-end devs. It's not as easy as I thought it would be. It's a lot of very intricate stuff. You know, the one thing about programming is that you can't be perfect at everything. I don't think there's really such a thing as a full-stack engineer. I think there's some people who are great at one thing and not so great at other things. So let's just do light gray. Let's do light gray. Good, maybe? That's fine, honestly. It doesn't matter. Let's go here to view the code. Let's just see what it looks like first. Actually, I want to make sure this starts on the center screen. So go to my properties and go to start position. Center screen. Save. Patient list. Click any one, edit, good. So starts on the center screen, good. All right. Now, I'm gonna go to the code behind, but before I do that, I'm going to disable some of these boxes, like admit date and birth date shouldn't change. Theoretically, most of this information should not change. You know, marital status, ethnicity, all those things should change, but things like religion, room number, you know, diagnosis, those can change. But for right now, I'm just going to make admit date, date of birth, and age read only. So I'm going to click this, and then click age. I'm going to make it read only. Hold on a second. Let's go here. Let's go to read only. If I can find it, read only equals true. And let's go here. I don't think this has a read only, but maybe we can disable it. We'll say enabled equals false. And then enabled equals false. In fact, since you more than likely won't change the admit date or the birth date, we can just remove these two text boxes. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to remove both of these. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to take all this information and I'm going to move it up here. There we go. And then change this form. There we go. So save that. Go to the code behind. So we're going to need to write the using FireSharp statements like we did earlier, because even though you're reading patient information from the object that's being loaded from the other form, when you update that information, you want to save it to this database. So you need to write your using statements. So I'm going to copy this from somewhere else using Firebase config interfaces response. And then I'm going to go here, my main form, copy my config and client, go back to edit patient. There we go. Then I'm going to declare now I'm going to load the patient values into the text boxes. So I'm going to go back to my designer, click here for the patient load event. When you load this form, I want to take the patient values from that are now stored in the patient info object and load them into the text boxes. So if patient info doesn't equal null, we're going to say first name text box dot text equals the patient info object, patient info dot first name. And then we do first name, last name, physician. We're going to populate it with age, but age is going to be read only, so you won't be able to change it. Gender, address, phone number, marital status, ethnicity, religion, code status, room number, primary diagnosis, and that's it. Just give me a second. Okay, there we go. Oh, you know what? That would have been a great idea. But never mind. I just thought of something, but it doesn't matter now. So now I'm gonna change these. So first name equals first name. We're gonna do last name. Last name, physician, physician text box, age, and then we're gonna do gender. Because I copied these components from the other one, they automatically have the names of the components from the other form. So gender, address, phone number, marital status, ethnicity, religion, code status, room number, and then primary diagnosis. Right. So first name equals first name, last name equals last name. This is going to equal physician. This is going to equal age, but that's an integer, so we have to convert this to an integer. So the text box equals age. Yeah. So convert. Well, this isn't. Yeah. So we have to do age.toString. string. And then gender equals gender. Address. This is phone number. This is marital status, ethnicity, religion, code status, room number, and then primary diagnosis. All right, so if I've done this correctly, when the edit patient form loads, the patient object that's coming from the OBJ patient object from the other form is going to have values depending on the row of the data grid view that we clicked. And then it's going to load those values into these text boxes. Okay, let's go over here. Let's click save. That's going to update. Cancel is going to do this dot close. So let's say this dot close. Good. And then we're going to come back here for the save. This is going to be the async that we retrieve from the database. Let's just do it now. I was going to test it, but I'll just do it now. So I'm going to put a try-catch block here. Message box error occurred. And then here, we're going to take all the values that are currently in the text boxes and then save them to the patient object using the current patient's ID. So when this patient is loaded on the form load, it's going to have an ID, right? So we're going to take all the values in the text boxes, we're going to store them into this patient information, and then using this particular patient's ID, we're going to store that. We're going to use it to update that patient in this database. So we're going to do patient info dot first name equals first name text box dot text, first name, last name, physician, gender, address, phone, marital status, ethnicity, religion, code, room, primary diagnosis. Age is not going to change because it's read only. In a more robust application, the age would change with time, and you would automatically calculate the stored birthday value with the current value. The way it's built right now, it's just going to be static, but this is just, like I said, this is just a demo application. So first name, last name, physician, gender, address, phone number, marital status, religion, code status, and then room number and primary diagnosis. Let's make sure I did that correctly. First name, last name, physician, gender, address, phone number, marital status, ethnicity. I missed ethnicity, so let's just put this down here. Ethnicity. So we're going to go last name text box, physician text box, gender text box, address text box, phone number text box, marital status text box, religion text box, code status text box, and then room number text box, primary diagnosis text box, and then ethnicity text box. Good. And then right below this, you want to write set response. Call this response equals await client dot set async. We're going to go to the patient database. So patient database / concatenate that with the patient info .id. You can't change that because it's automatically generated randomly. So patientinfo.id, and then what you're storing are the values of the patient info object, which are now changed because we're storing each property into the object based on what's on the text boxes. So, and then we're going to say messagebox.show, patient has been inserted, or updated rather. Messagebox.show. Let's do string.format. So patient first name, last name has been updated. So patient info dot first name, and then patient info dot last name. We need another parentheses, close that up. There you go. No errors, and I think that should be it. I'm gonna go over this one more time. This is the edit patient form. So from the patient list form, depending on which patient is selected in the data grid view, it's gonna correlate to the patient list. When you click edit, it's gonna load the patient form with that particular patient's information. Go to the patient form, and then all these text boxes are gonna populate with the patient information. And when you click the save button, let's rename this update. I'm just gonna rename it. So it still says save button, but I'm gonna rename it update. And when you click the update button, which is basically the save button, there's a try catch block, and then everything in the text box gets saved into the patient using correlating to the patient properties. Set response, and then await client set async. Oh, update async. No, let's do set async. Let's just hope this works. Yeah, it should work. So save, build. Let's go start. So I'm gonna go to the patient list. 501c is 213 right here. So I'm gonna open this up so we can see it. Let's say the age is 35. That's not gonna change. Date of birth is not gonna change. Admit date's not gonna change. But we can change. If we click this here, it's Spike Spiegel. We click edit. It's gonna load all Spike Spiegel's information. Right here, he has Dr. Early. We can change this to Dr. Smith. We can change ethnicity or room number to say 520A, and we can change marital status to married. And then he has a left upper extremity fracture, but now he also has COPD and diabetes. So when you click update, it should change all this information here. So update, error occurred. Okay, let's go cancel and figure out what happened. So async, await, try, we're loading all this information. Last name, first, last, physician, gender, code, ethnicity. Set response equals await client dot set async patient dot plus patient ID, patient info, message box dot show patient has been updated, and then this dot close. Something's going on. Did I not initialize this? On form load? Nope, I did not. So the client, here's what I did wrong. The client is not connecting to the database. So what I should do is go down here on form load, where you have the form load, or even here in the initialize component, and write client equals new FireSharp dot Firebase client, and then we're going to put in the config, and then hopefully now it'll work. So start the application. Go to patient list. We're going to click Spike Spiegel. Click edit. It's going to load all of Spike's information. So his name is Spike, his name is Spiegel. We're going to change him to Dr. Smith. He's now a DNR. He's still male. Change his address. He's now at 963 Rodeo Drive. Number is the same. He's now married. He's still Chinese, still Buddhist, but we're going to move him to 520A. And we're going to say he also has COPD now. So that's a lot of information that changed. When we click this update button, if we don't run into any errors, we should see all the information that we've edited change over here. And then it'll automatically close the form, and hopefully Spike will now be in room 520A instead of 501C. And see, because this list is going to be sorted by room number, where he's going to be all the way down at the bottom. So several things are going to change. So let's just go right here. I'm going to click edit, but watch the screen over here. Edit. All these values change. And we have the message box that says patient Spike Spiegel has been updated. We click OK, and then it closes this form. And then he's sorted right down to room 520 Spike Spiegel. And if you double click and edit, you're going to see all that information has been changed based on what we put in the last. Okay, so that is the update portion of the create retrieve update. Now I'm going to pause for a moment and write the delete functions.